DigiU is an ecosystem. We develop and fund projects in the field of artificial intelligence, and we consist of a technology company and a venture fund. For me and the team, this is a new and unusual experience. What we're doing now, we're doing for the first time, but we're doing it wholeheartedly, sincerely, and we know we're moving ahead of the curve. More than 130 countries are involved in the project, and over 20,000 registrations.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
This is a rapidly emerging situation.
The first US case has been detected.
And I want to make an official statement to everyone listening. We have already written and communicated that the entire DigiU project team has now switched to remote work. And as today clearly shows, in my opinion, we are working even more efficiently than before. And I am genuinely very happy about that. The project is progressing well and has run for 8 months. 170 countries have joined, a great result. Today marks the launch of the first DigiU product, which brings profit to our investors. DigiU Wealth is a product that already allows you to earn money. And in December 2020, it will allow you to receive your first dividends, all in our company's very first year of operation. If in just 1 year we manage to have our startup company launch its very first commercial product and pay out the first dividends, just imagine how much more we'll accomplish with this incredible momentum. In the next year and the years to come,
we realized that we needed to create our own projects. We put together a team. We came to the conclusion that we needed to go cross-chain. It became clear that 2021 would be the year of cross-chain. I am the founder of the blockchain laboratory DigiU Lab, and within this division, we are currently developing a cross-chain exchange project called AvaFi.
I'll tell you about our venture fund. We launched this initiative quite successfully, and it's becoming one of the most important parts of the DigiU ecosystem. This idea and vision of the word ecosystem was there from the very beginning, and this is the mission we proudly carry: to make people the main beneficiaries of modern technology. A strategy session is an event where the short-term, mid-term, and long-term development strategies of the company are created. Right now, we're at a point where we no longer need to prove to the world that we're capable of accomplishing things. The company already has products we're developing, and we already have an amazing team, amazing even by global standards.
Today's economic report from Russia. The economy has been hit with 16,500 sanctions targeting energy, finance, defense, logistics, and aviation.
Welcome to 2023. This year will be held under the banner of our Ecosystems Venture Fund. One of the trends is phygital, the gradual and ongoing transition, or rather, the digitization of real-world objects.
Where did the name Binary X even come from? Binary means digital, and X stands for anything. Right now, we're tokenizing real estate assets because we see huge potential in real-world assets.
The Spirit.me technology allows you to very easily and extremely quickly, literally in just about 4 short minutes, to digitize a person's visual image, making it possible to use it for absolutely any purpose you choose. Today we are at the largest exhibition, the Mumbai Money Expo 2023. Here we are representing our company, our venture fund. Both Alexander and I were invited speakers at this expo, and we received quite a lot of positive feedback. There are 3 areas that we are preparing, and in fact, they are already ready to receive funding. The field of artificial intelligence, our own RWA bank, which has already been established as a separate project. And the 3rd area is a marketplace for tokenized assets. IVA, together with Curve, are creating the innovative cross-curve solution. In the city of Novosibirsk, we held the first international investment forum for the DigiU ecosystem. Partners and investors from different countries around the world flew in. And in fact, we summed up the results of the company's 4 years of work. We are in Hanoi at the largest exhibition in Asia, ETH Vietnam 2024. Ava and CrossCurve are the main sponsors of ETH Vietnam. We just finished our presentation on stage and shared information with some pretty influential people. We are wrapping up the share sale process. June 30th, 2024 will be the last date of purchase a new share package. In the first 6 months of 2024, the number of commercial products in the ecosystem increased by 220% and continues to grow. The two-day Money Expo India 2024 conference has ended. We had a booth from Webwise Capital. We were invited to speak as presenters. I gave a talk on the topic of tokenized assets. The emergence of structures on the market in the form of banks and marketplaces that operate using tokenized assets is already a done deal. They are appearing, and there will be more and more of them. For a year and a half now, we have been financing and creating our own projects in these areas within our ecosystem. We are developing them simultaneously. Visiting an exhibition related to real estate and investments, the Invest Trend exhibition. We are at the exhibition with the Apato team, and with great pride, we have a joint booth with Atazi Indonesia, the largest real estate agency. This high level of partnership shows the strong interest in the technologies we are developing in the Apato product, both from a technological and a commercial perspective. Right now, stepping out here feels a bit exciting, because with the company's 5-year anniversary coming up, this is basically a report on what we've accomplished. Today and tomorrow, we'll be talking about what we've managed to achieve and what our current understanding is. Because, obviously, over these 5 years, the ecosystem has changed. Our understanding of the world of finance and how everything really works has changed as well. In a way, 5 years ago we were not exactly kids, but I think, honestly, where we are now is very, very different from the point where it all began. It's remarkable to see just how much has changed since then. So for 2025, we're setting a financial goal to attract investments specifically from DigiU in the amount of $15 million into the fund. This will allow us to secure the value of the main liquidity provider. And this is the right move in terms of long-term development. To achieve this goal, in December 2024, we are resuming the sale of DigiU shares. The metrics of the Ava project are growing very rapidly month by month, quite literally, week by week. This includes total value locked, TVL, the number of users, and transaction volume. The plans we've outlined for 2025 include the buyback procedure, resuming sales, completing the reorganization, registering companies, and obtaining various banking and crypto licenses.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump each launched their own cryptocurrency coin.
Trump has made at least $350 million from this meme coin so far.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. That's tariffs, including currency manipulation and trade barriers.
The Solana Validators product is currently our most popular area. Some of the validators will belong to the DigiU ecosystem. Just think about the additional profit we can generate when 10 of our validators, or even 100 of them, go live on the mainnet. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars per year.
And cross curve, we're going to do $1 million at a $15 million valuation.
We combined the resumption of sales with a buyback in order to give everyone who is dissatisfied with something a real, genuine, and tangible opportunity to exit. For us, this is a clear and unmistakable signal that the vast majority of the company's co-owners fully and wholeheartedly approve of everything we're doing, have no intention of selling their securities portfolios, and are committed to moving forward with us. What could possibly be a more precise and obvious confirmation of your support?
Hello everyone.
Today, the DigiU team and WebWise Ventures are at the Blockchain Forum. While attending this exhibition, I'm noticing an increasing need to create our own data center. Because we understand that artificial intelligence requires a certain level of computing power. Today we are at the Transforum. This is a forum dedicated to artificial intelligence.
In our strategy, including the strategy of the fund and the venture builder, it may seem like we're creating separate building blocks, but we're doing it in such a way that in 1, 2, or 3 years, these projects can work together synergistically.
Welcome to DigiU.
Dear friends, welcome. My name is Alexey Ognev, and I am the CEO of the DigiU ecosystem. Today, we have another webinar. This is taking place after the International Forum of the Future, which was held in the city of Novosibirsk. This is a forum for the DigiU ecosystem, where partners, co-owners, and team members from different cities and countries flew in to attend. We tried to create a checkpoint for intermediate progress because we've already been developing rapidly for almost 6 months in 2025, and we now have this corporate tradition. In general, from a business management and goal achievement perspective, it's the right thing to do to set up these intermediate checkpoints. We do this regularly. So May has ended, all the key participants in the ecosystem gathered at the main office, and we talked about the work we've done, the results, the market, upcoming projects, reorganization, some problems, and the key decisions we've made. We also discussed the future and what we still need to do this year to achieve our stated goals. And, as we like to do, to make significant progress and get ahead of our roadmap. These are the decisions that were made. We paid a lot of attention to regional work because what do we see? We see that we have a strong presence in the markets of Asia, India, and African countries, and we're gradually expanding into Latin America. And all these are developing regions with their own cultural characteristics. Our products are not always adapted to these markets, and they don't always take into account the specifics, political and economic features, culture, or education. The goal of this meeting was to look toward regionalizing our products. I actually learned this word from the African delegation. We managed to do this quite successfully. Why are we doing this now? Because a lot of our products are currently at the MVP stage. just entering the market. And when I say a lot of products, I mean DigiU Alpha and the areas that are united under this brand. So at this event, we also introduced DigiU Alpha to our audience. Right now, this name is being mentioned a lot throughout our ecosystem. You can interact with it in chats. We've updated it, and now it responds more accurately and in more detail. Over the past 3 months, it has learned to communicate with you, to answer your questions, and every time we try to make the interaction even more precise, correct, and useful, both for it and, of course, for you. You can interact with it on Facebook and follow how it runs its blog, what ideas it suggests, how it engages with the audience, what contests there are, what works out and what doesn't. That's how it's being presented. For 2 or 3 months now, we've been talking about the launch of the Personal Alpha. And at this forum, it was presented for the first time in a very limited version. We gave it to the leaders, and it's gradually spreading. We didn't prohibit its distribution, but we did warn that if you come across it or someone sends you a link, it's still an MVP, a very raw product that needs updates. Obviously, all the disclaimers and other notifications are written in it, but not everyone pays attention to that. So until we officially present it, until we hold a webinar in our style where we talk about its features, if you encounter the personal DigiU Alpha, please be understanding. It hasn't been officially launched yet, but it already knows how to interact with you. It's a kind of personal assistant, a helper that lets you ask questions and build some kind of work strategy. Naturally, it runs on modern open LLM models with some of our own developments and our human approach. We'll talk about all of this later. It also allows you to create fairly simple, but at the same time impressive effects. This includes image generation, predictions of various events, predictive models, and accordingly, an informational function. Going forward, this product will continue to develop actively. So what role do we see it playing in the ecosystem? It's a simple entry point, essentially the core of the digital identity concept, which allows a person to enter the ecosystem and gain the support of a highly advanced artificial intelligence as an ally. We're interested in making sure that you, as a person, as a professional, or just as a user, are able to achieve what you want, and most importantly, that you stay relevant in this rapidly changing world. What have we encountered, and what do we keep running into? Obviously, the world is changing. It's changing on every level, and it's changing in pretty unpredictable ways. We notice this within our team. We notice it when we attend various exhibitions. We see in general that people today are concerned about what's happening, why everything is changing so quickly because of technology and also due to political and economic processes. There's this fear of the unknown. On one hand, we imagine that everything will be fine, but at the same time, we don't really understand what exactly will happen, when it will happen, or how we can stay relevant in this world. And Alpha will, in part, help solve this problem. What kind of choice does a modern person face? They see opportunities. Obviously, by observing the DigiU ecosystem and other projects, you can see that in this fast-changing world, there's a chance to make a sharp leap, a so-called quantum leap in your development, your well-being, your dreams and ambitions. This opportunity exists. It's available to those who can keep up with the world, use modern technologies, and take artificial intelligence, blockchain, and all things unknown and unfamiliar as allies, diving deeper into them. The more you learn, the more chances you have to make that quantum leap to do it precisely and to understand where exactly you need to make that leap. That's what AI technologies and modern models offer now, if you know how to use them correctly and if they're on your side. This is our changing world, where you can either make a quantum leap and grow significantly or be left behind. And at this crossroads, it's very easy to take the wrong turn. Alpha is designed to ensure that everyone in the ecosystem, everyone who interacts with our products in any way, will be among the first to gain this ally who will help you move forward, allow you to define yourself, and give you the opportunity to make your own quantum leap. You'll be able to have such a powerful ally as artificial intelligence. And the DigiU ecosystem, with its human-centered approach to technology, follows the principle that technology should serve people, and people should be the main beneficiaries of all modern technologies. Under this banner, we introduced DigiU Alpha as an entity that brings together our approaches, our developments, and all the available advancements in artificial intelligence from around the world, and so on. We've managed to present it in several so-called entities. There's the Telegram app, which we're actively working on improving right now. I think in July we'll present it to our audience as the first version with several roles. Alpha for individuals with basic functionality. Alpha for investors with advanced features that provide serious analytical reports, recommendations based on up-to-date information, and so on. In other words, we're starting with what interests us most. All of this will be connected to our products related to deposits, DigiU Wealth, the RWA Bank, analytical systems, and so on. How can you, as an investor in today's world, stay relevant? Obviously, you need an ally whom, over time, you'll start to trust with your investment decisions to analyze projects and analytics together, and so on. That's the direction things are heading. We'll be presenting one of these products. There will also be another version, Alpha, created for those involved in promotion, primarily, of course, our own project. This version will have the broadest functionality because those who promote our project and product are naturally the first to test everything, and there will be a lot of work scenarios and opportunities there. Essentially, it's something that will make working with audiences and promoting products much easier, allowing you to present them simply in some cases and to create a certain wow effect in others. It's like a business card for those connected to the ecosystem. Obviously, DigiU Alpha still has a lot of use cases ahead of it. Most importantly, we are carefully designing it in such a way that it will become the starting point for the full-fledged, comprehensive implementation of a digital copy of a person's identity, with all the resulting properties and characteristics of this concept, as well as the various possible paths for its future development. We'll be talking more about this in detail. I think in June we'll probably record a video with my thoughts and the team's reflections on how all our projects are interconnected, how over these 5 years we've advanced in implementing the digital copy of a person's identity, how we built the necessary infrastructure, how we arrived at this concept overall, why we consider its realization to be an essential part of our mission, and how it can be implemented with or without our direct involvement. These are deep, fundamental questions. Overall, this is one of the most important and key topics of this year because technology, the market, and users are now ready to engage with this concept. So, for us, Alpha is the interface for developing and expanding this concept, and it will evolve in different directions because a person's identity has several, so to speak, levels of development: technological, ethical, legal, and personalized. There's a lot of interesting and valuable information here. We've shared some of it at the forum, talked about it with our international audience, and received valuable feedback. And accordingly, we'll be presenting it to you very soon. As I mentioned earlier, Alpha was presented in 3 distinct forms. There's the Telegram app, which many of you may already be familiar with. There's the robot's intelligence, which made a particularly big impression and spread widely on social media platforms, capturing the attention of a broad audience. So what exactly is robotics in general, and how is it fundamentally connected to the software we're working on? A robot is, in essence, a physical entity, whether it's a humanoid figure, a robot vacuum cleaner, or a self-driving car. These are all, in principle, different manifestations or embodiments of the same underlying concept. What really matters, ultimately, is what's inside its head. Its programming code, the algorithms and instructions that drive its behavior. We showcased a version of the robot that contains our specific settings, our carefully crafted prompt, and our unique know-how, which allowed people from different countries, our team members, and everyone present at the event to interact with it, ask questions, and most importantly, to experience firsthand what it's like to be next to this remarkable entity. According to many respected futurists, by the year 2040, there will be about twice as many robots or robotic entities on Earth as there are human beings. And obviously, we're asking ourselves, what will be inside their heads? Of course, we've all heard stories that everything will be fine, and stories that things could go badly. But what specifically will be in their heads? Our team, our company, would very much like to see a bit of a human approach in there, the very programming code, the set of instructions that determines who this intelligence is ultimately for, people or corporations. We can see that digital inequality and financial inequality are only growing and will continue to grow in the foreseeable future. And naturally, or maybe not even naturally, but rather we see that this gap is starting to look almost insurmountable, almost impossible to bridge. And soon, the need to solve this problem will become obvious not just to us, as those who are creating the future, developing new technologies, and looking for allies in the form of these technologies, but to everyone else as well, including those who may not be directly involved in technology. If we talk about robotics from the perspective of LLM model development and artificial intelligence advancement, then globally, this is the next stage of progress, the next big leap forward. What does that mean? It means that modern artificial intelligence systems need to interact with the real world in order to gain this experience of interaction, this hands-on practical experience. Maybe I'm explaining it in a complicated way, but overall, this is a well-known technological challenge that many companies working in this field have faced and continue to face. In other words, artificial intelligence needs to gain real-world experience to move on to the next stage of its development. Real experience similar to human experience, the kind of experience that people naturally acquire. And then it can advance even further in its development, so to speak. Because right now, modern LLM models like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Grok, and many, many others are, for the most part, models that interact with code, with letters, with numbers, and have been trained on that. Chatting with ChatGPT can feel like a conversation with a real person, with an actual mind, a genuine intelligence. But if we look at it from a technological standpoint, it's really about achieving a high degree of accuracy in predicting the word and the sequence of words that you, as the conversation partner, need to receive in order to get some kind of answer to your query or question. But that's exactly where the catch is. For these models to develop further, they need to move into a so-called physical body, which is a significant step. And robots are one of the possible scenarios where implementing these LLM systems will allow them to gain real-world experience and understand things a bit better in a more practical sense. For example, what it means to pick up an object and why we consider it heavy, not just why we call something by a certain word or why a word is made up of certain letters, but why an object has a certain weight, why you need to jump over certain obstacles, and so on. This is a pretty basic explanation that I'm using here, but the main idea is clear. So we're looking in this direction as well. For now, we're not looking at it from the perspective of manufacturing robots, although that's a very interesting and rapidly developing field. Instead, we're focusing on the so-called soul that will be inside these robots, the intelligence that will be inside them. And if we're talking in purely technological terms, we're looking at how these entities, these robots, can interact and communicate with each other. Because what do we see? First, there are more and more of them appearing. Second, when there are a lot of them, it's obvious that they'll need to exchange relevant information with each other, like a system for exchanging information between different databases. If you know what I mean, that's one of our areas of expertise. And if you imagine that a database is like these entities from different companies, from different manufacturers, in different forms, whether it's self-driving cars, unmanned aerial vehicles, or unmanned physical robots, then obviously they'll need to communicate, interact, and exchange data with each other according to some kind of communication or data exchange protocol at a certain speed and so on. So that's the direction we're looking toward. I think you understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, feel free to ask a question in the chats. We'll answer you during the broadcast. In general, robots are an area we're focusing on, an area we have to pay attention to. And it's also where we, as experts, are looking at a specific part of this field. The third entity is the virtual space, where we introduced DigiU Alpha as a kind of virtual assistant. Essentially, it's capable of taking on any physical form. Naturally, we presented it in the most familiar form, so to speak, as an android, a kind of humanoid. You could interact with it. Very soon, all of this will appear in your personal account, and it will become another technological feature of the personal account. And most likely, it will become a technological product that we can distribute, implement, and use in various ways. Because at the moment, this is one of the most in-demand products in different fields, at least in the marketing and user experience markets. Let's move on. As I already mentioned, DigiU Alpha is a unified interface that brings together our developments and gives ordinary people in any country the opportunity to first interact, and then, as it were, to self-identify, thereby eliminating this fear of uncertainty. So we're creating DigiU Alpha in such a way that it can help anyone, anywhere in the world, receive this initial care, guidance, and the ability to stay relevant in this rapidly changing world. So let's move on. As I mentioned earlier, we'll make a separate video about all of this, not in the format of a webinar, but as an interesting and informative research piece. Moving forward, obviously at this forum we talked about results, we discussed promising products, and we specifically covered the topic of validators, liquidity management, and the results of the venture fund's work, and in general, everyone was satisfied with the outcomes. I think in the future we'll share these results in a much more detailed way. Now, let's move on to the main topics that everyone is interested in and that we need to discuss in this video. And in fact, these topics are the main reason for this video. This is essentially the process of reorganization. As I told you 2 months ago, At that time, we were in a stage where we needed to choose a jurisdiction. Because this year, obviously, we've been focused on the legal side of our business operations. Last year, we realized that this is now the key area where we need to focus our efforts in order to scale the company. The next step is, of course, infrastructure scaling and scaling from the user perspective. But all of this is impossible in today's world, at least in the right and forward-looking way, without proper legal structuring. We took this issue very seriously, and it was absolutely the right thing to do. So the jurisdiction has been chosen. Right now, we're finishing up the final preparations. By the end of the summer, I think we'll have time to open all the necessary companies. This is BVI. That's the jurisdiction that is both respectable and gives us a lot of freedom for the kind of business we're running. And what does that mean? It means that we'll be able to develop our company and work with partners from the vast majority of countries around the world, and do it in a way that is as correct as possible from both a legal and business standpoint. That's it. We're keeping the possibility for different development scenarios. What does that mean? It means we can develop as a private company with a closed list of shareholders. Basically, just like we're doing now, with growing capitalization with dividend payments from the company's profits. This is a fairly stable and interesting model that, at the start, allows us to work efficiently, enables us to do buybacks. We'll talk about that a bit later. It allows us to pay dividends, and we'll discuss that a bit later as well. And it also allows us to feel stable and protected. The next development option is to become a public company with all the opportunities that come with it. This means opportunities for scaling, for popularizing our projects, and for attracting liquidity on a massive scale if you are established as a commercial entity, can show profits, and are interesting to large capital. In order to be attractive to big investors, besides having a sustainable business model, you also need to be properly structured from a legal standpoint. BVI makes this possible. The third development option is tokenization. Obviously, we can't ignore this trend, and we're looking in that direction as well. What does this mean? It's also a kind of public company, but on new, promising markets where everyone is heading right now. And maybe in a year or two, this will be the most promising direction for our development. First of all, it's optimal in terms of costs, for example, and it's optimal for our community, which consists of very different audiences in various countries and social groups around the world. Owning a token is, in many ways, one of the simplest tools. It doesn't require a person to do a lot of things, like going through KYC, opening bank accounts, and so on. Although, in general, all of that can be solved. But in some countries, it's simply not available. That's why we're also considering tokenization and see great potential in it. How and when all of this will be implemented, we can only speculate for now. Right now, we need to do the work that will allow us to even count on this possibility. Accordingly, BVI allows us to do all of this, and that's exactly where we'll be registering the company, and most likely it will be a holding structure. We'll share more details later once everything is done. And I think this will be completed by the end of the summer or at the latest early fall. Obviously, as we've said, all of this brings with it the possibility of granting our early investor special rights. This wasn't mandatory, but from the perspective of the company's development and fair treatment of our audience, we decided to do it. For those who have been with us from the very beginning, we first gave the opportunity to participate in the buyback. And when we saw such strong, undeniable support from our community, we realized that we needed to implement special rights at a fundamental legal level for our early co-owners who have been with us from 2019 up to now. In essence, this is the most difficult stage in the company's development. Now we can look to the future with confidence, talk about robots, discuss promising directions, and how we're going to implement all of this. Plus, we have a fund, a tech side, and a great team. 2 or 3 years ago, all of this was very shaky. It was only our belief, hard work, and the existing team that allowed us to get through this difficult journey. The company's investment appeal is at its peak thanks to the market, the team's expertise, the path we've traveled, and, of course, the products we managed to launch during these challenging times. Everyone understands this. Everyone who's been watching us can see it. And I'm not just talking about the community. I'm also talking about professional players. This issue of reorganization is a cornerstone of our further development. The right legal structure, which we're putting in place now, allows us to prepare for scaling. And behind that word are the next steps we'll be taking. Infrastructure scaling, scaling from the user's perspective, and scaling in terms of commercially successful products. All of this is still ahead of us. Our current position is very, very strong. That's why we're finishing the reorganization. And as I mentioned, we're formalizing special privileges for early investors during the reorganization through different types of rights. We finalized this list of rights. First and foremost, and this is important to many people who are interested, are dividend rights. This is a priority in dividend payments that will be available. It can be implemented in different ways. In some cases, we might pay dividends only to holders of preferred shares. In others, we might choose different proportions, but overall, these privileges will be secured. Dividend rights. The second type of rights are liquidation preferences, meaning that in certain liquidation scenarios, holders of preferred shares will have greater protection and certain priorities. There are also anti-dilution rights, which means that, first of all, the ownership stake in the company will increase to 30%. This will happen thanks to all the snapshots we are conducting. Secondly, the stake will be protected from dilution, so it will remain unchanged in any scenario. Additionally, we are adding voting rights, meaning we are granting preferred investors the right to vote. This will be implemented through the personal account interface, and we will be raising various issues for voting. This will allow us to jointly develop the company in specific directions. Another point is that obviously there will be certain obligations, such as participating in votes, for example. So keep an eye on the news and actively participate in the life of the company. Now, this will be both your right and your responsibility. We are now finishing the sale of preferred shares, and in July we will conduct a snapshot. The third snapshot will take place on July 1st, and then within 10 days we will be doing the calculations and accordingly making the allocations. So, for anyone who sees the need to increase their portfolio or join the ranks of preferred investors, if you've been putting it off, there won't be a better chance. In fact, there won't be another chance at all. So don't miss out. For everyone who's been thinking, postponing, or deciding, there are about 20 days left for you to become one of the company's preferred co-owners, preferred investors, and to have these rights and privileges. I proudly thank our entire legal team. we are moving forward, heading in a direction where we can properly scale the company in terms of entering new funding rounds, attracting other investments, and making the company attractive to investors at different levels, not just at the retail co-owner level, but also at the level of institutional money and the proper development of product co-ownership. Because we have faced quite a few legal challenges along the way. This process, which we have been working toward for a long time, will first of all eliminate these challenges, and secondly, allow the company to develop in the directions we've just discussed. Buyback is a procedure that was also, so to speak, a challenge for us. It's not standard for the market, especially for the venture capital market. Moreover, as a venture fund, we had never encountered this in our own practice before. We've dealt with risks with the prospects of high product growth, and we expect this high growth from the products in our portfolio. But we had never dealt with a buyback before. And when we were preparing this procedure, we were guided more by our internal sense of fairness. In other words, we are building a company that at times can act contrary to the market. By doing this, we show the market that we are different, that we stand for something else. We stand for fairness and for opportunities. For example, if someone was dissatisfied with something, or if someone had certain life circumstances that required a different investment approach, we provided that option. And many people told us, why do this? It's unnecessary. Everyone understands this is the venture space that you have to wait. If you want something more reliable, go and use standard market returns. And don't expect big multiples if you're not ready for risk. But we think a little differently. First of all, we work very closely with our community. At the very least, we share many of the same values, and that's why the buyback procedure came about. And when we launched this process, we were obviously prepared for the possibility that everyone could apply and would want to do so. But what did we actually encounter? The vast majority of our audience, about 15,000 people, maybe even a bit more, had the opportunity to submit a buyback request. In the end, 1,795 people submitted a request, and 384 people confirmed it after receiving a buyback offer with a return of up to 30%. So that's only 2.5% of those who could have applied, and almost 1.5% of the total number of company co-owners. That's the minimal figure. This inspired us so much that we realized it was a complete endorsement of everything we're doing. It was a moment of pride. Now we're approaching the point where, in July, payments will begin for those 384 people. These are people with different packages. Some have $100, some might even have a $50 package, and some have packages worth several tens of thousands of dollars. So, how will the procedure itself work? On the 25th of each month, starting in July, payments will be made. The amount will depend on the sum the company allocates for that particular month, roughly from $10,000 to $100,000. Accordingly, we expect to fully buy back all company shares by the end of this year, meaning we have 6 months to complete all settlements. It might happen faster, but we'll base it on our financial results and the company's development plans. Naturally, we reserve the right to adjust according to market conditions. So the 25th is the key date, and everything will be available in your personal account. In June, you'll already see all the information you need as a participant in the buyback. If you confirm your request, then on the 25th of each month, you'll receive your payment. We'll strive to do this as quickly as possible. There's absolutely no intention to drag things out. But at the same time, we're not planning to direct all available funds to this procedure. Here, we're using the principle of adequacy. And as I said, we'll complete all settlements by the end of the year. So, I want to sincerely congratulate all the participants and the entire ecosystem on this remarkable achievement, because at a fairly favorable price, we will acquire a significant number of company shares, which we can either keep or possibly use in some other way and at a different value. In any case, this is a decision we made based on the company's core values and a fair, transparent approach, understanding that the company is now on the launch pad and heading for the stars. So this is also beneficial for us as well. Obviously, there are a lot of questions about dividends. Let me remind you that over 5.5 years, our company has paid dividends 6 times, not counting various bonuses and many snapshots where we included product assets. If you look at the numbers, it adds up to several $millions. This is generally an unconventional approach. Nevertheless, our audience believes in the company and, accordingly, asks questions about dividends. There are some thoughts I'd like to share. In 2024, we took a break. We realized that maybe we should direct all the money we earn toward development to speed things up, because the market doesn't wait. The faster you move, the better. That's what we did. And 2024 was a year of truly explosive growth in the number of products in our portfolio, in the number of technologies, and in the events that took place. We grew tremendously as a company. Was this the right business decision? Of course it was. And now we're looking ahead with confidence, carefully preparing to scale up, conducting the buyback, building up a safety cushion, and launching projects on a slightly different level. These include both venture projects and infrastructure projects, such as Solana validators, DigiU Alpha, and so on. Obviously, the profit margins for IT products are quite high, but they don't start out that way. They become high once a product attracts a sufficient number of users, which is a process that can take some time and effort. So now, 5 months into the year, we see that we can start discussing this topic in more detail. If we succeed in attracting users with DigiU Alpha, which will have some kind of subscription model, and the validators, then the situation could change significantly. And most importantly, a lot of work has been done over the years in terms of fund investments, in terms of the AVA product, in terms of the anti-pad ecosystem products in other areas, and in accumulating intellectual property, which is a crucial asset for any technology company. In other words, assets have been accumulating, and at some point, profits will inevitably follow as a natural consequence of this growth. In the venture business, this can be like a switch that everyone is eagerly waiting for, anticipating the moment when everything changes. So now we can talk about the possibility that by the end of the second half of 2025, we might be able to count on paying out significant dividends, for example, in January 2026, which would be a major milestone. For now, these are just thoughts on the subject, and nothing is set in stone. This is not an official statement or an official date, but there is a real prospect for it, and it is something we are seriously considering. The market we're in and the products we're offering are very favorable for this kind of development. We might even put this question up for a vote among stakeholders. It's good that the reorganization will be finished by then, and we'll see what decision you personally make. That's the positive news. And we're starting the second half of 2025 with even more confidence, knowing that the reorganization is coming to an end. That's one less restriction, and we're getting closer to the next step, obtaining various licenses, whether crypto licenses or banking licenses. At the very least, the process will be set in motion, which means we'll be able to bring in some institutional liquidity, the right kind of liquidity, into our products. We're close to launching subscription models for the DigiU Alpha service and for our other services. We're also close, perhaps, to selling one of our products that's been developed within our tech division and venture builder. These are things that take a long time to mature, but then, as I've said before, can happen quickly, almost in a snap. So, with this fighting spirit and confident outlook for the future, we held the forum, talked with the audience, discussed some regional specifics, and talked about the buyback, which I congratulate everyone on who made that decision. Now I've brought up the topic of dividends. So all of this is closer than it seems. That's why I'm really happy to be saying this now, and I'm proud that our whole team is building this together as a team of co-owners. Even though the world is changing, we're choosing the opportunity for a quantum leap, for quantum growth. So I invite everyone to join us on this journey. That's all I have to say. Thank you for today's meeting, for this webinar. All the best.